This is RF from the Country Lunch Show on WOOL 91.5 FM, and this is part four of our interview with Paleo Mountain Man and Budcat 7.
I believe
Yeah,
it too.
and that's why I consider this, the northeast of North America here an extremely important archaeological site in total. I mean, it's a giant mega city, is what it is. But you know, there's a there's a whole story here that we don't know anything about. Nobody's put it together comprehensively. Nobody's made a comprehensive study of it. And we're just opening new vistas onto that now. And the walls themselves are where you're going to find a lot of this information. And hopefully we're starting to crack it a little bit by, reporting on these things, producing videos, whatever it is. But there's a number of things that Jimmy and I came across there too that sort of suggested that the walls were not built by colonists and settlers. One of the things was the lower wall on the rear part of Jimmy's property. We noticed that a lot of the stone there was brought from outside of the area, which didn't make any sense to us, because from what we were led to believe is that the farmers were clearing the land and pulling the stone out of the land and building these walls. But it seemed to us like a lot of the stone there was brought from outside of the area, which didn't make any sense to us. That was one thing. Another thing was it's all this cleared land. We were going over in our mind that the age of the walls we believe to be correct, thousands and thousands of years old, that, we kind of thought that the land there had already been cleared a long, long time ago before the settlers and colonists even got to these areas. And as it turns out, it was affirmed more or less in Charles C. Mann's book, 1491, when he found out that at least the Native Americans, who probably got this from the people who were there before them, these large hominids or giant people, that they were burning large areas of forest, clearing the land, and pulling out all the big stones to grow their crops there. So if that's the case, then a lot of the cleared land that you find in the New England area had already been cleared millennia ago. So it's a bit of mythology that the settlers and colonists spent all this time clearing up the land, when, again, from Charles C. Mann's book, we heard that many of the colonists and settlers moved right into the areas that the native peoples had previously occupied. Now they were all dead from disease or violence. But the settlers and colonists moved right into the areas, the prime areas, the perfect areas to grow crops. They moved right in there. They didn't have to do anything. And they also had the stone walls to demarcate the properties as well. You could either take down some internal walls or build up other walls, some cannibalized walls. But the walls were already there to demarcate the properties, and the land had already been cleared. So there was a couple of things that Jimmy and I more or less came onto on our own from just observing what was going on there. Stone brought from outside these areas doesn't make sense from a colonial or settler perspective. And these large tracts of cleared land had already been cleared. So, we have this whole mythology built up around the colonists and settlers, which sort of ignores everything else that went on there before. And unfortunately, that's the sort of propaganda, for lack of a better word, that's put out there, and it sort of truncates the whole issue of the wall. So people
Well,
are just
I think
they
there's a
go
way
with
to
that.
prove it too. Like the wall on my property, the serpent wall, it would be useless if there were trees all around it. I mean, it's made to search the horizon. The wall below it, on the west side of the property, there's a giant tic-tac shaped dolmen, jelly bean shaped dolmen, in the wall, built in the wall. You haven't seen this one. I found it recently. But if you sit on it, it's like being up on the side of a cliff looking out into the west if the trees were gone. And it's a place to sit and to look out. And it was built right into the wall. And the wall itself there is over 10 or 12 feet high, built into the it's that big. It's over 10 or 12 feet high, built into the side of the ridge with this giant dolmen stone on it, several tons. And if you sit on it and there are no trees in front of you, you can see all the way to the base, 35 miles away, the base of Mount Akimo. Like the whole valley, it opens up. It's the view that you were looking for. You can see the bottom of the mountain that far away, and that's what they were looking at. For some reason, it was a perfect spot for them to do what they were doing. And you know the walls were calendar walls. They have carved round stones in them that I call star stones. They follow the horizon sort of in an undulating fashion. And I think when the sun goes down behind each one of those stones, you know every year that the same time of year on that day, you can pinpoint the day by the sun going behind the wall. I think that's what they did. Plus, they used it for other things. I'm sure that I can't even understand.
A lot of it I think it was an administrative area, and I think having the view of the valley was not only to keep an eye on the everyday goings on of your people there, but also for security purposes. You can see the whole layout there. So.
And they burnt the land, and they cleared it. They did burn. Even the Abenaki burnt and cleared the land. When the colonists came in, it was a paradise. That's why they took it.
Yeah.
Basically, and
they
that's why
right into the prime areas.
Well, that's why the archaeologists aren't talking about it, because they're the ones that helped really hide it all. What these people were all about.
Yeah, they want to maintain this mythology. They want to maintain this romantic notion of what the colonists and settlers were doing here. So in order to maintain that narrative, they have to dismiss everything else.
What kind of science is it when you dig up a burial mound, take all the artifacts and the bones, disappear them, and don't write any information up about it, and just say it wasn't true, it didn't exist in the first place? And that happened over and over and over again. And that's a disservice to the people. And, now people are out there with social media. It's like a sword in your hand, because you can whip that sword out and tell your own story a lot easier than you could. And it's cracking that ivory tower that these academics have surrounded themselves in. And, I'm doing it here in Vermont. The archaeologists from Vermont just say, oh, it's all glaciers, no people were here. In fact, they tell me that the ancient Americans, all they knew how to do was peck stone with another stone, not even do images. That they didn't have it in them to even make an image in a stone. That's what they believe. They don't even have it in them to make an image in a stone. So they did nothing creative, nothing artistic. And the walls were farmers' walls. That's what they told me.
That's totally contrary to what we know, because we know that the Native Americans were very vain, and they adorned themselves with all types of things, jewelry, clothing, their haircuts. We know that they were extremely creative people. We know that they were interested in themselves. They were interested in art. So this whole notion that they didn't do anything and whatnot is really ridiculous on the face of it, just based on studying the Native American people. They adorned themselves with so much stuff. As a matter of fact, the Hopewell and the Adena, the Mississippian culture, all these cultures had a trading network from coast to coast, where they procured certain items from those areas because they wanted them. They wanted to have them as adornment, either on their person or in their homes or whatever it is. So this whole notion that the native people did not have that in them to create these effigies and other artworks, etc., is just ridiculous.